I'm so excited to be here. I mean, I haven't thought about it. 9 years that we've been doing this already in New York. And it's still kind of like it is my favorite location. I think New York has all these things that makes it such an incredible place to work on maps and geography. Well, first of all, I mean, maps in New York, they always look great. But there's always all this data and there's this vibrant community in here that makes it so special. So I'm very glad to continue with this tradition and for many years. I want to start first going back to the sponsors. I mean, you just heard. I think this is the year that we have more sponsors on the conference, and it's also kind of like showcasing the importance of our industry is having now in more places, especially on the cloud, right? So we got now Google Cloud, Snowflake, AWS, and Databricks, and this year we also have Oracle joining as sponsors on the conference, which I think speaks again towards the importance that Spatial is getting on the broader space of analytics and in the cloud in particular. Also want to thank Dataplow, Whereabouts, Deloitte, Corem, Factory, Cotality, and Carasoft. As you've heard, there's booths from them. I think one of the great things about this conference, beyond the talks and the workshops, is actually kind of like this networking that we get to talk to each other and also learn around new products, new data that these companies kind of like are offering. So I really invite you to spend time working on the booths and and learning about what they're doing, because there's always like something great to new to bring back home. So and thank you to all the sponsors. Well, yesterday we had also some great workshops, and I think like a lot of you were there. I had a lot of fun. I hope you like the new venue. I think it was pretty spacious, and I think it worked really well. So thank you for everybody that presented, and also thank you for everybody that participated. For us, this is a very important part. I know we're trying to pack as much content as we can, and sometimes it's not as easy to follow, but we think being able to see things in action really, really makes a difference. So it's my favorite in a way. I mean, it's a smaller crowd, and I really enjoy it. So thank you, everybody. I saw yesterday I couldn't attend the walk. I hope you had a great time. I mean, again, what an inspiring place, right, to be. Now, being in New York, I mean, I know this can be, there can be some discussions around it, but there's this elephant in the room, which is the congestion relief zone, implementation in New York City. It's been a big story, right, over this year, right? And so we just couldn't skip it, especially because being in New York, I mean, there's so much being written about it, right? There's so many news articles, so many maps, so many analysis about how it is going, and so on. I think it is fascinating. Going back to how amazing it is to work on geospatial in New York, right? I mean, you get a policy like this changing, and you get massive of people analyzing the data, looking at it from different fronts. So I was very excited, and we wanted to take a look at it ourselves. So I got here a demo that I prepared. Just kind of looking at at this scenario. So this is just a demo that we prepared to kind of look at some of the data that is public and trying to kind of analyze it from a geospatial perspective. So I mean, as you probably know, I mean it goes everything below 16th Street, right, in downtown Manhattan, and yeah, I mean this is coming to. I mean, I tagged, one of the biggest problems that you had in New York is this gridlock and the massive amount of traffic that is in the city that is making it harder and harder to live on it. And the results are very promising. I mean, the results that are being published publicly now, and in terms of, the reduction on traffic, it's very promising. The overall zone delays have been decreasing quite a bit. I mean, every day we're getting new data that is showcasing, promising results of these initiatives, right? And it not only it's affecting Manhattan, it's affecting the entire region, right? Also, traffic gets control over the tunnels. We're seeing it, in all the surroundings around it. So it's very exciting. It was also very interesting to see the data they're getting published around things like safety, with the reduction in the number of crashes by 14%, number of traffic injuries. There's pedestrian fatalities at historic lows, and those are some impressive data sets. Additionally, things from the pollution perspective. So we're seeing on the data already a reduction in terms of pollution and noise complaints. So I think that is fascinating. Obviously, this also has a very big impact, when it comes, towards, like where is this, where are those taxes going in terms of, like enabling better transit. So we'll see, but obviously, like a fascinating story right now in New York, seeing, how it's happening and having data to analyze it. But one thing we wanted to do is, okay, this is the typical kind of like macro analysis where we're looking at, like the entire city. But what if I could actually kind of like perform an analysis for myself, right? So for that, we've created this, this agent, I'll be talking more about it, where essentially what you can do is open up here, and you can go and select an area. I'm actually choosing, downtown Manhattan, where our first office in New York was, and I want to get, like what's been the data telling for this specific area, right? So trying to understand how is this kind of like been affecting where I live, or where I work, or where I spend time. So what you're seeing in here is an agent that is looking not at the entire data, but looking at, like this polygon or this circle that I've drawn on this area and gathering the statistics specific for that area, right? Giving me a much more personalized type of like experience, right? And you can see here in the draw that I got, like here's an analysis. There's, like a reduction of about 30% in traffic volume, 14% collisions, and improvement, a decrease in pollution by 18%, right? And that's just for my area, right? And this type of interaction, where I'm just coming and asking the question, I'm not having to kind of like enable layers. I'm just going and I'm using an agent to kind of like find my own story on this one. I think it's going to be very, very powerful. And in fact, actually, that's what we're going to be talking today a lot. There's actually two main topics I want to talk to you today about that I think are going to have a very, very significant impact in our industry. The first one is Agentic GIS. The usage of agents on our industry will change the way that we get things done. You'll see, very, very impressive. And also geospatial foundational models, or foundation models. This is, like a new way to think around how we do analytics. So I think, like there's a lot of potential, to rethink how we've been doing our work. So those are the two main topics I want to talk to you today. Now, starting with Agentic GIS. So unless you've been in a cave.
AI. More agentic capabilities.
An AI agent.
Agents.
Agentic workflows.
Agentic.
Right, so like over the last 3 years, it was all about AI, and now it's all about agents. So you haven't heard agents 100 times today, or like probably 1,000 times. Like I would be surprised. So yeah, but it really is it's the case because we're seeing a significant revolution when it comes to agents, and especially in our field of analytics. Agents are really kind of like now coming to a stage where can be very, very helpful. So I want to explain you a little bit about them, and then kind of like actually get to show you. So first thing, what is it different now when we're talking about agents and AI that has been before? I think it's because of like this change that we've seen, honestly, over the last few months. Not that much more, we'll see why later. But now we're starting to have agents that are much more capable at actually kind of like getting work done in a real way. Not in a demo way, but in a real way. And that's because like these agents are coming up to operate in this new way that you will see, which is this concept of like agents first have to plan and reason. Kind of like, okay, try to understand, okay, what is the user trying to get done? How will I get it done? It's first reasonating and it's planning, right? So the agent does first this phase, and then second, when the user is happy with this, it says, okay, well, now I'm going to actually get it done. And while I'm getting done, I'm actually going to be seeing, like, is there any error? Is there any problem? And if it's all correct, it will actually like have a self-correcting loop that can actually get things done properly, right? So the same way that we do. When we do an analysis, we try something, it doesn't work, we try something else until we get it done. So agents are getting in that way. And that's very different from the type of like AI that we used to have at the beginning, where you just ask the question and the AI will tell you like, yeah, 42, that's the answer, good luck, right? So now it's, no, let me think about it, let me try it, let me do it for you, right? And I think that is a very, very key difference. The other very big difference that we see in this year, and again, it's really not that many months. Myself, I kind of like, got really mind blown with it around April, May. But it really is in 2025, the stack is ready. So 3 things have happened that is really changing, making this possible. So the first one is these new agentic models. Things like Gemini 2.5 Pro, Claude 4.5, or GPT-5 are models that have actually been trained and are optimized to do this agentic type of like workloads, right? And that actually has made them, that they perform really well on this type of interactions. The second thing that happened this year that has been very, very impactful is the arrival of the MCP protocol, the Model Context Protocol by Anthropic. So this is a way for agents to know how to use different tools to get access to data, to do things. So that standardization has actually made, that agents now have much more capabilities, like, to perform and to try and to debug things on their own. That's been very, very important. And the last bit, which is maybe a little more subtle, but for me was very, very mind-blowing when I first realized, is this feedback loop agents. And I want to tell you a little bit about it, we know with the demo, but essentially is this how an agent can plan and then using the tools can actually get things done, but it's actually reviewing what it's doing, it's seeing if it works, and if it doesn't work, it corrects itself, right? So that like continuous feedback, and we're starting to see now agents that can run for hours, not even days, to get things done, is a very, very key part, because that means that like the agents can keep track over a long period of time and can actually get things very complicated without hallucinating, because it can keep track of what it's doing, and if not, it's correcting itself. I think that is really, really impressive. So to show you that, I wanted to give you a demo, actually using one of my favorite tools. I don't know how many of you have been using, well, actually, raise your hands. How many of you have been using Claude Code, Gemini CLI, any kind of like these terminal things? Wow. So it's already like half of the audience here. So if you have not, I highly recommend you to take a look at them. They're really, I think they are showing in a very massive way the future of how agents work. So I want to kind of give you a demo of what that means. Here it is. So I'm here in my terminal. Yep, we're going to get this one. And I'm going to open Claude Code. Claude Code is one of those agents that I'm saying that works on the command line and the CLI, on the terminal, that, that have this agentic and feedback loop that I was talking about. So for that, what I'm going to do is, in CARTO, we have this interface to make workflows, right? To make a spatial analysis. And what I want to do in here is to create a spatial analysis using an agent. So for that, I have an agent that I have created called CARTO Workflows Agent. This is an agent that is helping me to actually perform an analysis. And what I'm going to write here is like, help me build a workflow to analyze how traffic around the Empire State, well, I'm going to be really bad at writing. Empire State Building has changed last week versus a year ago, right? So I'm just going to kind of like going back towards, where we started with congestion. I'm just kind of telling him, can you analyze how it's been the traffic changing last week, compare it to last year? And that's actually going to drive a conversation the way that I'm doing. So the first thing that you see here is that the agent has, you guys see it, right? Yeah. So first thing they see is like, the agent doesn't go straight and give me an answer. It first thing is like, well, in order to tell you that, you're going to have to tell me a few things. Like, how large is the area that you want to kind of like analyze around the Empire State? So I say, let's use half a mile. And it's telling me, okay, and where should I get the data? Okay, this CARTO workflow agent is connected to my data warehouse. And say, so I'm going to tell him, and use a table called traffic data, right? So with that, the agent now is going back into thinking mode, and it's in what we call plan mode. So it's trying to figure out, in order to answer that questions, it's first kind of looking at, okay, what tables are in my data warehouse? Okay, great. It sounds like I found the table that the user told me, and I'm looking at the schema, what columns are available. And it's trying to figure out, like, is what I need to do is, do I have the data available? Right? And it's answering, great, the table looks perfect. I have, what I need, and this is my plan. I will generate a point, I will generate a buffer, I will intersect it with your traffic data, I will filter for last week and the previous week. It's going to do it for me. So I say, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. And this is you see, I'm going from the planning now to acting. So now, the agent is coming to, okay, I have all the information that I need, and I'm going to start kind of like getting it done, right? And it might sound subtle, but it's actually very, very important because that means that now it can keep, like the state and doing it right. Okay, well, this goes a little bit fast, so we gotta see it. Oh, I can screw. So the first thing that is done is creating a CARTO workflow. It's the way that you do analysis in CARTO. So, and the first thing that it's doing is creating a point. In this case, it knows the location of the Empire State Building. It's a very well-known building, obviously, so it knows the coordinates, and it's creating a point on that. After that is adding a buffer. You see, it's a buffer of half a mile. You see that at every time that it's kind of like adding a step on the analysis, it's also executing it. So that if it makes an error on the SQL or in the parameters, it can correct itself. Going back to this feedback loop that I'm talking to you about. So it's continuously doing that. So it created a point, it did the buffer, it did the spatial filter, and now it's branching because it needs to calculate how was the traffic 1 year ago versus last week, right? And it's just kind of like doing all that, and it should kind of like come towards the end, giving me, well, it's aggregating it, like this traffic essentially is like traffic volumes by segment, so we get a lot of like rows that it needs to aggregate to give me, and it's calculating the year ago. So if that all goes right, it should finish by now. By the way, you see how at the bottom is consuming tokens as it's thinking about it, right? So, so you can see like how these agents, I mean, they're not like your ChatGPT, you ask something and you get a response. No, this is the agent really kind of like iterating and thinking about it. Great, well, so this is the full analysis, as you can see here, and it's already kind of like detecting that there's a 13% decrease on traffic volume, an increase on average speed, and it's kind of like using kind of like road segments and so on. So yeah, so traffic volume has decreased on this area. Now, I can tell him, like, can you add an email notification to Torre, CARTO.com, and schedule it to run every Sunday. Right. So you see, I can have a conversation with it, and it has now the context, and it can actually go and add these extra things that I'm asking in here, right? So it's going to add a new component that Workflows has to, after it's done the analysis, to send the results by email. And it should be there in a minute. And see how it's just kind of like adding it. And when it's finished, it will just give me a URL that I'm going to be able to open. So this is how, like an agent using the different tools actually kind of like little by little can get something like this done. It's finished, it can schedule it, and if I click here, it should open CARTO, and I should see, yep, well, it's a little bit, like here, but this is the workflow that it has created, like using the tools itself, right? So I think that's, I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of, how these agentics kind of like operations work. I think it's pretty cool. So if you haven't, really started, trying some of these tools, I highly recommend you. Oh, I had one more thing. I really like it. It's maybe a little bit, like hacky, but I thought, it might make sense to see it on a map, right? So we got, like this kind of like map on the terminal, and maybe it's a little bit too much, but I think you get the idea. I don't think we're going to do that. It probably is better that you go back to CARTO and use a proper visualization tool. But I think it's, like, I think it's only because it's 2025 that we're seeing the terminal so much. I mean, a lot of these interfaces will come into easier to use interfaces, and hopefully we'll not see maps in terminals. Now, this is coming in many places. So last week, OpenAI announced in ChatGPT a lot of these agents inside the ChatGPT interface. So the idea of like enabling agents for consumers. So it's a very big step. And actually, if you haven't watched the demo, they make a demo for a site selection, for you to buy a house, where to find a house, where to live, and so on, which I thought it was really nice that they use a location intelligence kind of like use case. But also last week, Google announced Gemini Enterprise. So obviously, a lot of these capabilities are coming to the enterprise in different forms. And Google is at the forefront of that. And so we were part of that announcement. And I want to show you a video of an agent that we've actually added to the Gemini Enterprise Marketplace. So essentially now there's a marketplace where an organization can publish their agents and companies can actually use them. So we published one of our first agents. It's a pre-created agent to do site selection. So it essentially allows you to choose what you're looking for, and then you see how it opens up a specific interface and so on. So if you haven't checked it out, that's also a pretty big movement by Google in that direction. Now, going a little bit more back into the enterprise and how these agents are going to work. You can think of agents, the agentification of almost every company. You can think how you're not going to be filling up forms to request holidays or reimbursements. There's likely going to be agents for all of that. So in a way, you can think of the agentification of HR, finance, sales, all the different departments, including the geospatial agent. And each department will be responsible to expose a set of agents that can actually perform the activities for what they're responsible for. So imagine in a company that is selling billboards, and one of the employees asks, I want to make a new campaign for a customer in San Francisco. Well, these protocols now, these interfaces like Gemini Enterprise, will be able to know, okay, well, I have an agent available for that. I have a geospatial agent that can help you on that specific question. And that agent will call a set of tools, to actually get to answer that question, right? And in even more cases, combining multiple agents. So if you ask, can you help me visit my top customers in London before I go on holidays? The agent is going to need to know, okay, when are you actually on holidays? What are your top customers? And now with that, how can I make a plan? How can I make a route to visit them, right? So you see all these things combining together. It's where we are going. That's where all these protocols like MCP, agent to agent, and these enterprise platforms are going to enable. So where do we fit in that? So this is one of the key things I want to talk about today is what is the role of the GIS in this new world? So my big taking here is this idea that we have to move from building maps or making systems of record, explaining the data, to actually think about how we can agentify the processes. So the same way that I saw an agent looking at statistics for my specific area, we have to think about how, when you're designing a map, how you could be designing an agent that can answer questions with the information that you're enabling, right? So I think this is, in the core, one thing I want to make very, very clear. So I think there's this transition as an industry where we have to go, in my point of view, in a much more interesting way. Because it's not about putting a lot of data, doing a great analysis, and then let the people figure out. We have to really think deep of, okay, what's the questions that the users want to get answered, and what is the information system, what is the agent that I have to design in order to solve that, right? And I think that is going to be a very healthy way of looking at it. Now, in order to do that, last week, actually, we introduced an entire new capabilities in CARTO to let you create those agents. So we think that the ones that, the users who are professionals that knows how to make maps, how to do spatial analysis, are the best to create these these agentic or agentic GIS agents, right? So these agents, right? So what we're doing with CARTO is, and I'm going to show you a video. Maybe I'm going to talk about it.
How much faster could your organization act if spatial insights were accessible to everyone, not just your GIS team? CARTO is redefining spatial analysis with Agentic GIS, an approach where your GIS experts can build and configure AI agents which your whole organization can use to turn complex geospatial data into clear, actionable insights. Whether you're optimizing a mobile network, performing market analysis, or identifying best locations for growth, the Agentic GIS approach can automate workflows and surface clear recommendations, giving decision-makers the confidence to act quickly. These agents can leverage the tools built by your GIS experts to automate analysis, streamline repetitive tasks, and deliver recommendations tailored to your business needs. Bottlenecks disappear, insights arrive instantly, and your teams can focus on decisions that actually drive results. All of this is happening entirely inside your cloud data warehouse. Your spatial data never leaves your governed environment, and every AI action follows your security policies and audit trails. Because CARTO is cloud native, the geospatial tools and agents your GIS teams build can integrate seamlessly with your existing data flows and platforms. Make spatial insights accessible and actionable for your entire organization, all with CARTO's AI agents.
That's great. I love the overlays from YouTube at the end. All right, well, so we're very excited about this. What this means for us is really is an entire kind of new capabilities in our platform with the idea to enable users to create those agents on their own in a self-service way. So you've seen it in the video, but I wanted to actually show you live, right? So I want to actually show you the same agent that I demo at the beginning on the congestion traffic, right? See, I go here. So what you see here is the CARTO platform, right? That a lot of you know. And in here, I have now a new section for AI agents, right? So it is a top new data object inside CARTO. So if you click on it, and I actually have it already open here, you get to what we call CARTO Builder, right? This is the place where you actually design the map. And why we've decided to add the agents on the map is because we think when you're designing a map, you are effectively trying to solve a specific use case. So the analogy of creating a map and creating an agent works very well together. So when you design a map, you have to think, okay, what is the use case? What are the sources I need to do? What are the interactions that I expect the user to do? Well, so all of that gets transformed into an agent that can do it, right? So this is the interface, again, where you I just added all the layers around pollution, traffic counts, all the information that is needed to answer the use case. And now you see I have this new option for an AI agent that, will create an AI agent on this map. And when I edit it, the first thing you see is I can set up, what is the use case. This is a map to help you on this, not other things. So if you ask me about something that is not related to this, I will just not answer because I'm an agent that specializes on this particular use case. And then you get a ton of instructions in terms of, depending on what you're trying to do, like how do you want it to behave, how you want it to use. But most important, I think it's very relevant, is that you actually get to decide what tools does this agent have. And what we mean by tools is things like what data access, what interactions, like you saw when I draw a polygon, I draw a circle. That actually is a tool that now the agent can do to request an area of interest for this use case. So I have here the MCP tools. I'll talk more about it. This is essentially how you access the data, how you do the analysis. I have one here, which is New York traffic analysis. That's, you see, when I essentially draw the polygon and I submitted it, the agent called this tool to perform that analysis. I can also enable it, to make calls to SQL and to the database and so on. And I can also introduce welcome messages to help the user in a way navigate and know what to ask or help them to get started, right? So this is where you create first the agent. But before creating the agent, or at the same time that you're creating it, most likely you need first to think about the tools. So again, tools is where you define things like, you are going to be asked about doing an analysis, and well, this is where you define that analysis and the agent will call it. So it's not the agent being super smart and making the analysis for you, it's the agent being smart at understanding that it needs to run this pre-created analysis. And that's very important because agents are not that smart. What agents are good at is at following instructions and finding what is the user intent and then executing on it. So you can see here on my analysis, I have here, as a workspace, as a workflow. First, it all starts with the area of interest, that circle. And then what I do is I intersect that area of interest with collisions, with air quality. All of those are tables. One second. Tables, for these different type of things, right? So in this case, it's air quality, it's measurements at specific stations, collisions is accidents in specific locations. So I'm doing all of that in here, and at the end of it, I'm just filtering, I'm joining it, etc. And if I look at towards the end, like the result of this analysis, it's kind of like giving me, like a before and after. This is the result of this analysis. Given an area of interest, this is the before and after of these data sets, right? This is the analysis here. But very important, you see, I'm also adding a final tool at this workflow to expose it as an MCP tool. That means that now this workflow could actually be used by an agent. And to do that, you have to document more things into your analysis. You have to say, you have to explain things like, okay, this tool is useful for doing this type of analysis. This is how the agent on the other side knows that it should call this tool. The agent says, okay, I'm being asked to do this. Oh, I got a tool that actually for doing analysis based on an area of interest. Fantastic, I'm going to use that. So it knows it because it reads the metadata that you can find in here, right? So that's how you define it and how you publish a workflow as an MCP tool. Okay, and that's it. Then when you go back towards, like your agent, you see here I have these tools, and I have, like a way to add more tools to the users. There's some built-in tools that we provide, or external tools like what you're seeing here with workflows, where you're creating your own tools, or even connecting third-party MCP tools within those agents. So that's the ecosystem. So I think that's it for the demo here. So we're very, very excited about it. Great. All right. Now, we've not been doing this alone. I mean, we've been working with a number of design partners and companies in many different industries, right? So we wanted to really kind of like base this on value on specific industries like such as telecommunications and so on, and public sector. And we want to show you a little bit of that. So for that, the first one I have is we've been working with BT, a telecommunication company in UK. They have a very interesting project to mobilize spatial data based on aggregated on their internal data that you can actually buy. Things like human mobility and how different patterns about like mobility in UK. And that is actually a pretty nice interface with a lot of options. So what we've been working with them is to add an agent so that instead of having to go through a lot of options on their data publishing tool, you have an agent where you can ask what you're looking for, and actually it will just deliver that, right? So that's one that we've done. And the response from the team is very exciting. I mean, it goes like towards the first principle where agents make a lot of sense, which is democratization. It really, they see that like some of this data was very hard for people, or this interface is very hard to use, but when you enable this natural language, it kind of like makes it way, way more accessible. Another design partner that we have is Virtue Foundation. It's a great foundation here out of New York working on health around the world. And what they do is that they collect a lot of data around how access to healthcare in many places, like I say in Africa, in many places around the world. And based on that data that they have around health access, they can prioritize, where to send doctors, or like where to deploy support, etc. Now, the analysis of what they call these health deserts, or like this analysis of where there's gaps, can get quite technical. So the idea of using an agent where someone can ask more directly, okay, well, I'm going to this place. What are the needs? What are the needs in here? Or where is the place where there's more needs for certain type of doctors? Provides a much easier, again, interface to interact with that information system. So it's very, very exciting about it. And obviously, I mean, being and everything on health, the impact on this type of improvements, it's pretty amazing. I also want to tell you about TELUS. It's a telecommunication company in Canada, which have been deploying, obviously, a ton of infrastructure, from 5G networks to fiber optics. And that deployment of this infrastructure requires a lot of planning and a lot of, then also sharing of information to different stakeholders. So what they're looking at using, with agents is to facilitate that process much more. Instead of, like having to have, like a GIS expert that is kind of like doing a specific analysis for an area, like they can parameterize it, put an agent, and if someone is thinking about doing a specific project for infrastructure deployment, the agent can help them through all the indicators that they need to take care of it. So I think that is a very exciting use case where we're seeing a lot of automation and modernization of a process for this one. So We got this great quote from them. And the last one I want to show you is Cotality, which probably many of you know. Is one of the leaders on property data and location intelligence. And yeah, they've been, well, I had a video.
Cotality's location intelligence insights predict where new growth is happening across the U.S. Their real-time property data blends land acquisitions, permits, and demographic shifts from individual properties to neighborhoods, zip codes, and beyond. What makes this data really powerful is when it's placed in the hands of those who need it to make site planning decisions. And that's where CARTO's Agentic GIS platform comes in. With CARTO, organizations can create and deploy AI agents, which in turn can be used by any team to perform tasks and automate analysis, all through natural language. Instead of waiting for an analyst to become available, a user can simply start a conversation. This transforms Cotality's predictive data into clear, instant insights that are accessible to everyone, from market planners to store development managers. All of this is happening with the user's data never leaving their governed cloud environment, meaning they can be confident that all of their teams are working with the same accurate, centralized, and protected information. CARTO's AI agents provide end-to-end support for the full decision cycle, helping organizations turn their site planning processes into a competitive edge.
That's great. And with that, I actually want to welcome on stage Anand Singh, who is VP of Location Intelligence and AI at Cotality.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. I mean, like this partnership with you has been great, being able to work on AI, on agents together. But I know that you've been, there's going a lot of revolution inside Cotality on the usage of AI. You're running it. What it actually means? What is the, what do you think it's going to, what is the change that this is going to produce on your business and in your organization?
Javier, first of all, it's such a pleasure to be here amongst this geospatial community. And you guys at CARTO have been such a great partner to us, working in partnership in building some of the agentic capabilities. About the change, I think it's really about change of persona. It's a change of persona from a technical analyst to now a decision maker in the business. It's a change of persona from somebody who was having to enable the data, query the data, visualize the data to get to the insights. And now in the hands of business user, it's simply about having a conversation. Yeah. So you no longer have to wait for a technical analyst. You can just come in and ask questions. I mean, just the demo itself, you can imagine somebody was having even the number of data sets from Cotality who were at play for this demo, from growth to demographics to firmographics to understanding where construction is happening, and having to bring all of that data together to now a business user just coming in and say, hey, I'm a retailer. Where should I be opening up new stores based on a certain criteria? So that's the shift. And what agents allow you to do, as the insight become easier to consume, the decisions become better and faster. That ultimately help Cotality and our clients make better decisions at the end of the day.
Well, that's great. I'm definitely, the demos and the work that we've been doing is definitely fascinating. Well, this is a pretty technical conference, and I really like it that way. And actually, one of the things that I love the way that you've been working over the last months, I know that you've been looking a lot on data discoverability for AI. There's a lot of new standards and ideas about how to improve how AI finds data and how it uses it, and you've been actually at the forefront of that. So can you tell us about it?
Yeah, we actually have an initiative that we call as making data agent ready. If you imagine all these agents, the LLM capabilities, they've all been trained on data that has been publicly available to the most part. And when you start to apply that into a particular context, property and location in our perspective, for example, the context becomes highly, highly important. Yeah. And the reason it becomes important because the kind of answers that we want these agents to provide, if they have to drive trust at the end of the day, which is paramount for anyone to make decisions, that trust has to come from two things. One, the authoritative source of data around it, and then second, the context it provides. And it makes a huge amount of difference because every terminology in different contexts could be different. Yeah. And then what terminology means in that particular perspective could be different as well. Right. So in this example, for example, somebody asking a question of, hey, I'm a retailer, I have a certain set of sites that I may have selected. What is the value of that site? Now, the value without context doesn't mean anything. Yeah. But in the context, the value could be the current market value of the land. It could be the last sale value. It could be the value to construct something on that land. So if you don't know the context, the agents are going to struggle. So enabling the context, enabling the metadata, we have been putting a lot of effort in building the semantic, building the knowledge graph to enable, as I said, making data agent ready, and that's what powers all of these capabilities.
That is great. And just to clarify, because this means that things like what you will expect of, we have to be better at documenting, for example, the schemas of our data sets and what are the use case and what is the meaning and all those type of things. And the technology is coming up to speed on some of this. And you've seen some incredible results when you do that. The amount of usage by AI, it kind of skyrockets, right?
Absolutely. As I said earlier, I think it comes down to trust.
Yeah.
When people start to use capabilities like these, the answers that they get, once they start trusting the answers is when they can use it for decision making. Otherwise, yes, you can have all the conversations, but you can't make real decisions out of that.
Well, and lastly, I just want to tell you, you guys are working on this for quite some time now. Where do you think are we heading? I mean, what do you see, what is coming next in this revolution?
Well, I think the present itself is very exciting, and the future is going to be even brighter. I think the impact, as I look into it, comes down to two different areas. One is going to be around the business impact, right? I think we're very quickly moving away from, we have the capabilities around the agents who can provide the answers, but I think very quickly we're going to get into action-oriented agents. As we start to stitch the agentic workflows together, it's no longer just going to be around getting the answers, but rather more about agents taking action on your behalf. Yeah. So as a business user, the job becomes easier and easier. You don't have to rely on a technical analyst. You don't have to wait. It becomes more and more proactive. So rather than just find me things around site selection, it's going to be, hey, continue to monitor, be proactive about it. When certain things change, when some triggers happen, notify me or take actions on my behalf. So that's the business impact. And I think the second one is going to be for all the professionals. And GIS professionals on both ways. One, I think their life is going to change in now being able to create the agents. And we saw a lot in your keynote as well. But equally how agents can help the GIS professionals do their job better as well.
Right.
So both the business impact as well as for the GIS professionals. And I think when you combine the best of property and location data in our context with agentic capabilities like what you all have, this partnership, the future looks very, very bright.
Well, that's very great. Thank you very much, Anand.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, well, for continue, I mean, how do you enable these type of capabilities? Also, it's very important. Obviously, I mean, there's safety issues and so on, but in the context of enterprises, there's certain things that we've heard from many of you that matters a lot. So the first one, I mean, we're gonna hear a list, but actually let me go through some of them. So the first one is that you really want your data to stay under your control. And that means that data stays in your warehouse, everything kind of computes in there, and then you have full control, and there's no data exfiltration. So that's something that we've actually taken a lot of care, and that means that you can configure even what is the provider of the AI models that you're using together with your data. So if you're on Databricks or Snowflake, they already have AI capabilities that you can leverage to power your AI agents, or in Oracle and so on. Of course, in Google, in AWS, and Azure. But more and more, these AI models are becoming available together where your data is. And we want to respect that. We think that is very important. The other thing that we are hearing from you is as much as I log our CARTO interface, the reality is that these agents are going to live in many different places. So we've seen it already Gemini Enterprise, but we can expect that the agents that you create on CARTO or the tools that you create on CARTO, you will use them on ChatGPT, you will use it in different enterprise on different enterprise agentic platforms, right? Or even in consumer GPT apps. So yeah, this multi-channel integration. You've seen me already. I think MCP is one of the most unblocking technologies. So that means that you can create these business processes, these analytics in CARTO, and then expose them as MCP tools. That we think is going to be very, very relevant. And yeah, that's so. I mean, some of the things that we are taking care we're doing when implementing these Agentic GIS capabilities. Now, if we think about it, more from kind of where is this going, and what is the next, from my point of view, the next few months or next year, I think something we're going to see a lot is that there's this need to modernize GIS. I mean, like, you can expect, like, think about like in a year from now. Any kind of like GIS platform where you have like 1 million layers and you can interact and get info windows and all these things, it's just going to look very outdated very, very quickly. Why? Because the expectations from the users are changing. We now are like looking at, open up a chat and be able to make the question and get the answer. The idea of like you finding it on your own and so on will work for some users, but for the majority, that's not the expectation they have. So I think, like if you have a traditional kind of like GIS application, now is a really, really good time to modernize it, right? To kind of like think about, how you can rethink it from an AI and an agent kind of like perspective. So we think that is going to be a very big trend over the next year. And talking about modernizing, we also last week, we were very excited to announce a new partner, a new platform support on CARTO, and that's Oracle. And yeah, Oracle, I was like checking before, we did a workshop yesterday, I was checking before, added geospatial support 41 years ago. 41 years ago. So I mean, like, you can see, how deep the capabilities of geospatial have gone on Oracle. So in reality, there is pretty much support for anything that you can do on geo is available in Oracle. You can do vector data, you can do raster data, you can work with trajectories, with linear references, networks, point clouds, LiDAR. All those things are supported natively already on Oracle. And they're actually used by many, many organizations. So I'm sure there's many of you here who actually have Oracle inside their infrastructure, and it's powering a lot of geospatial workloads. Now, the beauty of this is that like Oracle over the last years have actually added support to run Oracle on the cloud. And that's what is enabled that CARTO now can run on top of Oracle on the cloud. And that means that you can use Oracle in our managed service, when you go to carto.com, or if you host it in your own infrastructure, in your own cloud, or even in the Oracle cloud. So what I mean is like you can run Oracle on GCP, on AWS, on Azure, with all these geospatial capabilities straight away, like if it was just another database. And I think that's pretty amazing. The other thing that they have added is this concept of autonomous DB, is this product that is like an elastic and serverless infrastructure that is incredibly powerful. So CARTO runs on autonomous DB and other versions of Oracle too, and actually even with the free tier that you get when you go to the cloud. So we're very excited about this. So we think like this is a great moment to work with them because with the acceleration of the modernization that we're talking about, now many organizations that have their data and their business process logged in Oracle have a great opportunity now to modernize it to the cloud and to this AI area. So very excited about that. All right, a lot of Agentic GIS and agents. So I wanted to touch also briefly the second part of the talk around geospatial foundational models. I know it's a lot of content, but I couldn't skip it. I mean, I think this can be, if you ask me, the impact of Agentic GIS is now. It's happening right now. But the impact of geospatial foundational models will also be very profound in the next years to come. So, but first of all, what are geospatial foundation models? Well, let me ask, how many of you have tried working with a geospatial foundation model? So it's only a few of you, but there's already a few of you, right? But I expect that this is going to change over the years. We're going to see next year, probably half of the room will have touched it. So maybe just a little bit, what they are. So you've already been explained many times how LLMs and AI works by predicting, the next token, the next text. Well, so the same concept on geospatial is this concept of geotokens, where you can essentially package information together. So to get, a large language model, to understand location and understand the geographic relations. So in a way, it's like if the model gets to understand the geography of a place, the relations between the data sets. I think it's very fascinating. So we've seen a lot of foundation models recently. But some of the ones that we're very excited about is like Google announced Population Dynamics. It's a model that captures information around where people are, how they're going to move, demographics. Obviously, super interesting for anything around market analysis, site selection. It's very, very strong. So published by Google Research. Very, very interesting. The other one that they published is one called AlphaEarth, from the AlphaEarth Foundation, which essentially is a remote sensing looking at pixels, in this case, remote sensing data, and kind of like trying to capture, like similarities, like other changes, and so on. So that's the second one. And what we've been doing at CARTO is working a lot with them. So if you check out our blog, we've been like publishing around how to use it, like what they are, how to use them, how they compare to doing traditional analysis. So like how for example, population dynamics works at, like working with demographics data for site selection. So you can find a lot of that, and it's pretty impressive results. We've also done a webinar, and you can see a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of, like momentum around discovering the value of foundation models for analysis. We've also integrated into the product. On CARTO workflows, you now have a specific foundation models components to use those two actually that we've got in there. So that if you're doing a spatial analysis, you can do it in the traditional way, or you can use some of those foundation models. And I invite you to start experimenting. In some cases, they're right now not much better than the traditional way of doing a spatial analysis, but you can only expect that they're going to get better, right? So I think it's a very, very relevant kind of like a space to learn about. Another thing that we're doing is we're seeing that these foundation models, like they're normally kind of like served in this concept of embeddings, and normally they provide you with a model that understands geography, right? Where people are, how like geography, where mountains are, what you will expect, what is on the world. But you can also further kind of like customize them by using your own data. So if you, for example, a telecommunication company, you can take a data set around quality of service on your network and combine it with these foundation models and get a customized like set of embeddings for your use case. And that's actually pretty powerful. So we're doing this with a number of our customers, and I think it's something that is very promising. It's not realistic that probably any of us here is going to make our own foundation models. It takes a lot of computation and so on. Only very few frontier type of companies have access. But this type of customization, I think is something that's going to be very, very, very accessible. So where this is going for us, we think foundation models will potentially change the way that we do spatial analytics. And that's why, at CARTO, what we're trying to commit is to be, in a way, the cursor of foundation models. We want to be the platform that makes it easy to use them so that you can transform the way that you've been doing the spatial analysis. So more on that coming in the next months. Now, where this actually applies, it's in many, many sectors. We talk about telco, you obviously can say it in insurance, but one specific sector that we think has a lot of potential for modernization with all these technologies is the public sector. And well, first of all, because probably, I don't know if it's depending on the statistics, but like 30–40% of all the users of geospatial technology are on the public sector. So it's a very, very, very important sector, that has been leveraging geospatial for a long, long time, and honestly also has a lot of outdated GIS systems out there. So there's a great potential now for the modernization of those GIS systems, to make them more powerful, more accessible, etc. So for that, we've actually been very happy to partner with Deloitte, which is also one of the sponsors here today, to actually accelerate this transformation of traditional GIS systems into these new modern cloud-native, AI-ready solutions. So, great. The second partner I want to highlight today is Google. So obviously, we all know Google has been at the forefront on many things in terms of AI. Like Transformer and a lot of like the technology that is powering AI came from Google, and obviously is one of the companies that are like right now advancing it faster. But Google also has been advancing a lot on the geospatial sector, right? So innovations, like obviously like Google Maps and all its services, but we've been working with them on things like BigQuery, adding GeoParquet support, the geospatial data types. Now there's support, like on Earth Engine connected to BigQuery, like Gemini is understanding more and more geo. So you see there's a lot of, like areas where Google has invested on geospatial and is very connecting it more and more to their AI strategy. So we think that is phenomenal, and it's a partnership that with us has been working really well. And over the last years, we've been able to enable a lot of organizations, like that have, gone on that process. So we've been very excited, like on this journey working with Google. So for that, actually, I want to welcome on stage, our colleague, from Google, Keith Blackstone, who is, oh, sorry. I'm just, sorry, Keith. I just, yeah, there you are, Keith Blackstone, Head of Customer Engineering at Google.
Good morning.
The cloud strategy. Thank you, Keith, for joining us today.
Good morning.
So Keith, I know you don't work on geo alone. You work on many other industries, such as finance, retail, healthcare, and telco. Tell us a little bit about, this impact that AI and this modernization that is happening in these other industries beyond geo.
Yeah, that's really a great topic. You mentioned a lot of different industries. The interesting thing is they are all facing a very similar problem. And it's how do we take things from the experimentation point into production AI? How do we really turn the ideas into value and meaningful solutions that can really push business forward? That's really what we're trying to partner, obviously, with CARTO. We're very happy to certainly be here. Those are some of the bigger trends that we're certainly seeing now.
That's great. Last week, as we discussed, you guys launched Gemini Enterprise, right? And we launched our retail site selection agent. But I mean, that's, I guess, a bigger topic, right? Where do you think is the impact, that Gemini Enterprise and even including Marketplace will have on, on the adoption of these type of solutions?
Yeah, it really comes into three big points that I want to kind of fit it into. The first being that companies are craving innovation. They're really looking to understand, well, how can I take my applications that were once siloed independent applications, and how can I have things work together as a system, enter the agentic era, right? The second point is, it's not really only about the developers anymore. We're now trying to help the practitioners, the people in your organization who have the great ideas, aren't necessarily sitting in one particular business or one particular area. Well, how do we enable them to really help a company drive innovation and really move things forward? And third of all, the Gemini Enterprise, the site selection agent, and the other agents that are now accessible allow you to not only take the purpose-built agent, but also tie it into many different other data sources to help enable you to make smarter, more intelligent choices and decisions, and understand where you're going to invest time, energy, and resources. As we know, time and money are all limited. We want to maximize that as best we can, and the Gemini Enterprise and the associated Marketplace is certainly helping in all of those areas.
That's great. Over the years, just was mentioning a few of the technologies. Like Google is at the forefront of things like geospatial foundation models, but it's also on everything around Earth Engine, remote sensing, Google Maps. You guys were the first to add a GeoParquet on BigQuery, which is a very big deal for our industry. And all these things, there's this feeling of acceleration, right? That things are getting accelerated, and feels like it has to do with AI, right? That it's kind of like accelerating all this adoption. What is exciting? What is coming? What is bringing? Not only in geo but overall.
Yeah. So we noticed customers ask really intelligent questions, and we are fairly good at stitching together data. The missing piece was the geospatial aspect to really understand and apply context, as you showed in your demonstrations earlier. Those are not necessarily always easy to interact with, and that's where AI can certainly make that a lot easier, where you can either speak to or very easily draw in or type in what are you looking for, and how can you then turn that into powerful decision-making on a daily basis.
Oh, that's great. Well, okay, thank you very much for this partnership. Looking forward to continue working together.
Thank you very much. Take care.
By the way, I didn't mention, but there's a great talk coming from our colleagues, like Sean Woolman from Google later on Earth Engine, talk about foundation models. That is actually it's killer. So I think you're going to enjoy that a lot. Now, I just want to wrap it up. We're just coming to an end. So I want to kind of leave you with a few kind of thoughts around this. So the first one is I think from an industry, and I like this slide because I put the library of Salamanca in Spain, which has one of the most marvelous library, but also map collections. I find it fascinating. But I think it's a good analogy towards the transformation I think we have to do as an industry. And what I call is this going from a system of record to a system of answers. We've been traditionally focused on how we can collect, curate the data, and have everything ready so that anybody come and gets its own a story and find it on its own. And so we were curators of geospatial data. I think now we need to move to more toward, like, we have to kind of be the enablers of, like, the answers that, like, that data brings. And AI is going to be, like, what facilitates that. So that change from one to another for me is pretty important. The second thing is this feeling of, like, I was just talking with Keith around this sense of acceleration. I mean, like, a lot of the advances that we've seen on cloud native technologies, like, that we talk about these years, so on spatial SQL, all those type of things that are happening now are getting, like, very, very quickly accelerated with the adoption of AI. You've seen me on the demo at the beginning, how easy it's becoming to do a spatial analysis these days, right? So the adoption of spatial technology is just going to kind of, like, accelerate a lot. And I think, like, that is something that, we have to take advantage of if our goal is really to make our industry very impactful. And the last one that I have is going back towards this slide, like, if there's something I want you to kind of, like, keep after this conversation, this talk, is this concept of, like, what it means for you in the work that you do. Like, if you were thinking, like, my role is to make maps, is to provide data and intelligent insights, how can you think about it, transform it into, like, okay, my role is to enable certain answers to be delivered, in an effective way, right? So this from maps, so making maps to kind of, like, be able to make, to create agents. I mean, like, that is the framework that I'm suggesting a lot of professionals to think on their career evolution. And of course, I mean, we want to be part of that. We're trying to put the technology in there, and we're very excited, like, to see, how you can use them and develop in this transition. So I think that's all I have for today. Thank you very much. I really hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Good.